In January 1990, Disney CEO Michael Eisner announced a 10-year plan for the domestic Disney parks, referring to the 1990s as the Disney Decade. The ambitious announcement announced several projects for both Disneyland Resort and Walt Disney World, including new lands, new hotels, a second theme park in California, and a fourth theme park in Florida. At the announcement, Eisner claimed everything announced will definitely be built. However, by 1999, Eisner's claim proved false, as not everything announced was built, due to various reasons. Still, both Disneyland and Walt Disney World did see some serious investments throughout the 1990s, even if they weren't what was initially announced as part of the Disney Decade. So let's examine the successes and failures of the Disney Decade.
1991 will see the young Indiana Jones in his own adventure spectacular, and an incredible live Muppet show. The Little Mermaid, Ariel, and her friend Sebastian the Crab will swim onto the scene in 1993. One year later, George Lucas returns to Disneyland with Alien Encounter. 1996, Dick Tracy's Crime Stoppers, combining state-of-the-art technology with a classic story from the past. Further ahead, Baby Herman's runaway buggy ride through a whole new area in the park, Hollywoodland, where park guests will appear in classic films of yesterday and television of tomorrow.
On January 9th, 1990, several projects were announced for Disneyland, with a 35th anniversary TV special, The Disneyland Story, outlining some of these future attractions. These included the Young Indiana Jones Adventure Spectacular and a Muppet stage show set to open in 1991, a Little Mermaid attraction and Mickey's Starland set to open in 1993, a renovated Tomorrowland featuring Alien Encounter set to open in 1994, Dick Tracy's Crime Stoppers, set to open in 1996, and Hollywoodland, featuring Roger Rabbit's Toontown Transit, Baby Herman's Runaway Buggy, and a copy of the Great Movie Ride from MGM Studios, set to open in 1999. Disneyland Resort was also set to receive a second theme park by the end of the decade, although Disney had yet to decide on creating a park in Long Beach, near the Queen Mary, or in Anaheim, next to Disneyland.
New resort hotels. 2 new additions to Epcot Center's World Showcase, and the doubling in size of the Disney MGM Studios theme park are just some of the projects that will become reality in the near future at Walt Disney World. Across from the recently opened Swan Resort is the elegant Dolphin Resort Hotel. The Dolphin's 27-story pyramid will be the tallest structure in all of Walt Disney World when its 1,500 rooms open to the public in July of this year. Adjacent to the Dolphin and Swan will be the other 2 Epcot Center resorts, Disney's Yacht Club and Beach Club Resorts. Disney's Yacht Club Resort is modeled on New England's summer homes of the late 19th century, while the Beach Club is reminiscent of a turn-of-the-century seaside hotel. Both will open in the fall and will be joined in 1991 by an exciting new entertainment complex, Disney's Boardwalk. Shops, restaurants, nightclubs, and other amusements will be featured with the sand and sea atmosphere of Atlantic City. Between Epcot Center and the Disney Village Marketplace, ground is being cleared for 2 more hotels, Disney's Port Orleans and Dixie Landings Resorts. The ornate architecture of New Orleans' French Quarter will be captured in rich detail at the Port Orleans Resort, while up the river at Disney's Dixie Landings Resort, guests will experience either the stately grace of plantation-style mansions or the rustic charm of a bayou village. Epcot Center's World Showcase will soon welcome 2 new countries, the one most requested, the Soviet Union, and Switzerland, with its thrilling Matterhorn Mountain Bobsled ride. The newest theme park in Walt Disney World is really growing. Coming to the Disney MGM Studios theme park will be the all-new Mickey's Movie Land, Roger Rabbit's Hollywood, with a wild ride on a Toontown trolley, Dick Tracy's Crime Stoppers, where guests can shoot it out with crooks, and the Muppet Studios, with a Muppet Vision 3D movie and the Muppets Movie Ride.
It'll be a backstage ride of explaining how movies are shot. And it's almost, but all the information is wrong.
There's plenty planned to keep Walt Disney World guests busy well into the next century. We'll keep you updated on the progress of all these projects on future Dateline Disneys.
Over in Florida, Disney announced 29 new additions would come to Walt Disney World over the Disney decade, although opening dates weren't given for many projects. Magic Kingdom was set to receive Splash Mountain, a Mickey Mouse Club show, a musical show of Snow White and Peter Pan, a Circle Vision show showcasing the wonders of Western civilization, a Tomorrowland being redesigned as an intergalactic spaceport with 2 new attractions. Epcot was to receive 3 new pavilions, Journey in Space for Future World, Switzerland with a Matterhorn roller coaster, and a Soviet Union pavilion. The 1987 Disney documentary Backstage Disney, The American Adventure, had actually shown a model for Epcot, revealing the Switzerland pavilion and another mountain being added to the Japan pavilion, despite not announcing either project until the 1990s. MGM Studios was to receive most new additions, as outlined by the Dateline Disney advertisement released on the Disney Channel in 1990. MGM Studios was to receive an expansion known as Sunset Boulevard, which would have featured several mini-lands, including Mickey's Movie Land, with a replica of Disney's Hyperion Studios, a Dick Tracy mini-land headlined by Dick Tracy's Crime Stoppers, and Roger Rabbit's Hollywood, which would receive a Toontown Transit attraction. The Studio Tram Tour was announced to receive an expansion, a Little Mermaid stage show was announced to come to Walt Disney World, and a Honey, I Shrunk the Kids playground was set to open in 1990. Finally, a Muppet Studios Land was announced for MGM Studios, featuring a 3D Muppet show, restaurants, and the Great Muppet Movie Ride, with this mini-land set to open in 1991. For the wider Walt Disney World Resort, a 4th theme park was announced to open by the end of the decade, although its theme was not revealed, and it was still being worked on. Disney also announced several hotel projects, including the Swan and Dolphin Resorts, the Beach and Yacht Club Resorts, the Boardwalk Resort, New Orleans French Quarter, Dixie Landings Resort, the Mediterranean Resort, Wilderness Lodge, Disney's Kingdom Suites, a haunted Hollywood-themed hotel, and a timeshare vacation hotel that would become Disney Vacation Club. Finally, an Andrew Lloyd Webber show was announced, although its location was not specified. Before 1990 ended, the Swan and Dolphin hotels and the beach and yacht clubs had opened in Walt Disney World, and the Honey, I Shrunk the Kids movie set adventure had opened in MGM Studios. By 1991, plans had already changed for the Disney decade. On May 9th, Disney announced the Westcott project, which would be the second theme park opening in California to be built on the land adjacent to Disneyland in Anaheim. The icon of the new park would have been Space Station Earth, a large golden geosphere. Westcott was to be joined by 3 new hotels and a new retail and dining location known as Disney Center, with the expansion to Disneyland set to be completed by 1998. With the announcement of Westcott, Disney revealed that plans for Disneyland had reshuffled on May 21st. With the announcement of Westcott, Hollywood Land was cancelled for Disneyland, as Disney claimed that having construction on Westcott outside of Disneyland whilst working on Hollywood Land inside of the parks was unworkable, so Hollywood Land was off the menu. Dick Tracy's Crime Stoppers, a thrill ride where guests fight gangsters, was also cancelled for both Disneyland and MGM Studios due to a Dick Tracy movie proving unpopular at the box office. After Jim Henson's death in May 1990, negotiations between Disney and the Jim Henson estate fell apart, leading to Disney losing the opportunity to use the Muppets in the parks. This meant that the Muppet stage show planned for Disneyland was cancelled. The other projects announced for Disneyland in 1990 had also seen some reshuffling. The Young Indiana Jones Adventure Spectacular had been cancelled and replaced with a new Indiana Jones attraction set to open in 1997. The Little Mermaid attraction was also quietly cancelled, with little information about it being known, although it may have been a suspended dark ride, similar to the one planned for Disneyland Paris' Phase 2. A new live show was announced called Imagination that would take place on the Rivers of America in 1992. A version of Mickey's Starland called Mickey's Toontown was set to open in 1993, with a Roger Rabbit ride. Finally, the Tomorrowland overhaul had been pushed back to opening in 1995, with the Tomorrowland set to receive Alien Encounter, a new 3D film, and a Circle Vision film, whilst Mission to Mars was announced to close. Over in Florida, Walt Disney World continued to open new hotels, with the Port Orleans French side opening on May 17th, 1991, and the Disney Vacation Club Resort, now known as Old Key West, opening on December 20th. Walt Disney World's future offerings also saw a reshuffle. With the relations between Disney and the Jim Henson estate falling apart, the Muppet Studios land for MGM Studios was cancelled. The Great Muppet Movie Ride was ultimately cancelled, an attraction that would have taken guests through the movie sets of several Muppet versions of movies like Peter Pan, Frankenstein, Indiana Jones, Pigs in Space, and Dr. Zhivago. However, one Muppet-themed attraction did open at MGM Studios, Muppet Vision 3D, as work on the attraction had already been completed. Muppet Vision 3D opened in MGM Studios on May 16, 1991. Just like Disneyland, the Dick Tracy Crime Stoppers attraction planned for MGM Studios was cancelled due to the Dick Tracy film's low box office. On October 1st, a Walt Disney World concept art exhibition opened, revealing everything announced that was supposed to still be opening at Walt Disney World during the decade. This was backed up by the Walt Disney World Past, Present and Future special, which showcased what was set to come to Walt Disney World.
This site is in the process of turning into Sunset Boulevard.
The legendary Hollywood Theater District will feature the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror. It'll drop you 13 stories straight down through the fifth dimension, right into your own episode of The Twilight Zone. Across the lot, you'll be able to take a wild trip on the Toontown Transit, a runaway bus that hurtles through the cartoon streets of Toontown. An exciting new peak is being added to Walt Disney World's mountain range. Splash Mountain will send thrill seekers on the fastest and wettest ride in the Magic Kingdom. Over at Epcot Center, the Imagineers are hard at work on a space pavilion for Future World and a new Russia pavilion for World Showcase, plus a thrilling ride through Mount Fuji at the Japan Showcase. In addition to the plans for all these new attractions, the Imagineers' drawing boards are chock full of concepts and ideas for entirely new theme parks.
The projects still on the table included an expansion to the MGM Studios tram tour, featuring a scene based on Journey to the Center of the Earth, Roger Rabbit's Hollywood, with Baby Herman's Runaway Buggy Ride, Cartoon Studios, and the Toontown Transit Simulator attraction, Sunset Boulevard and the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror, a haunted hotel where guests are dropped down a Tower of Terror, Splash Mountain coming to Magic Kingdom, Magic Kingdom's Tomorrowland being renamed Discoveryland and adding 3 new attractions, the Timekeeper Circle Vision show, the Alien Encounter show where an alien is teleported into the room guests are in, and a revival of a Flying Saucers attraction that used to operate in Disneyland in the 1960s. A Russia Pavilion coming to Epcot with an attraction based on Ivan and the Magic Pike, a Space Pavilion with an Omnimover attraction and another attraction where guests would be in jetpacks, and the Mount Fuji roller coaster for the Japan Pavilion. Of the other projects announced for Walt Disney World in 1990, the Mediterranean Resort, Kingdom Suites, and the Andrew Lloyd Webber musical show seem to have all been cancelled. By 1992, the first phase of the Disney Decade projects began opening at Walt Disney World. The Voyage of the Little Mermaid stage show opened at MGM Studios on January 7, 1992, while Splash Mountain officially opened at Magic Kingdom on October 2nd, adding another mountain to Walt Disney World's mountain range. Disney's Dixie Landing Resort, now known as Port Orleans Riverside, also opened on February 2nd. Over at Disneyland, Fantasmic opened at Disneyland on May 13th, 1992, the live show that took place on Rivers of America in Frontierland. Plans for the Russia Pavilion for Epcot were still in the works, with a Russia Pavilion Epcot World Showcase presentation revealing what was to come to the new World Showcase Pavilion, including the animatronic stage show called Russia: The Bells of Change, and the Ivan and the Magical Pike dark ride. However, plans for the Disney Decade were greatly impacted on April 12, 1992, when Euro Disney opened in France. The resort had gone over budget and did not draw the number of guests that Disney were expecting, leading to the budgets for several Disney Decade projects to be slashed. Whilst Disneyland Paris was set to cause disruption for the Disney Decade, the Disney Decade project still seemed to be on track in 1993. On January 24th, Disneyland opened its first Disney Decade project when Mickey's Toontown opened. This new land allowed guests to visit Mickey's hometown, with a permanent meet and greet space for Mickey Mouse being established. Then on November 12, 1993, Disney announced plans to build a Disney park in Virginia called Disney's America, which would be themed to American history. In December, the From Imagination to Reality, a Tradition of Excellence at the Walt Disney Company documentary was released, with Disney confirming that they were planning on building a new water park in Walt Disney World, Disney's America Park in Virginia, Westcott in California, and Tokyo Disney Sea for the Tokyo Disneyland Resort, whilst also showing more concept art for Epcot's Russia Pavilion. Of course, most of these would end up not coming to fruition. 1994 saw the completion of several Disney Decade projects at Walt Disney World. At Disneyland, Roger Rabbit's Cartoon Spin opened on January 26, 1994, finally completing Mickey's Toontown. At Walt Disney World, the Sunset Boulevard expansion for MGM Studios opened on July 22, 1994, but the only attraction to open in the new land was the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror, with the Roger Rabbit's Hollywood Miniland also being cancelled. Disney's Wilderness Lodge also opened this year on May 28th, whilst Disney also opened two value resorts, All-Star Sports and All-Star Music resorts. Epcot did receive a new pavilion, but it was Innoventions, which replaced Communicore to showcase new technology. At the Magic Kingdom, the Legend of the Lion King show debuted on July 8th, whilst Tomorrowland did begin its transformation, although it would remain as Tomorrowland instead of Discoveryland. The Starjets and American Journeys closed in January 1994 to make way for the transformation, with the Astro Orbiters opening in April 1994. The Timekeeper would open in November 1994, a Circle Vision 360 film where guests are transported through time as they try and help the Timekeeper get Jules Verne home. As part of Tomorrowland's overhaul, the backstory of the land was that it had become a spaceport, with a people mover being renamed Tomorrowland Transit Authority and having advertising other transit lines. Finally, on September 28, 1994, Disney officially cancelled Disney's America theme park due to local protest against the project. By 1995, the projects still in the works as part of the Disney Decade were beginning to wrap up. Whilst the Flying Saucers had been cancelled, Extraterrestrial Alien Encounter opened in Magic Kingdom's Tomorrowland on June 20th, completing the Tomorrowland overhaul. Meanwhile, the Blizzard Beach Water Park opened at Walt Disney World on April 1st, 1995. In Disneyland, the Indiana Jones attraction that replaced the Young Indiana Jones Adventure Spectacular opened on March 4th as the Indiana Jones Adventure. Disney also confirmed that Walt Disney World's fourth theme park was still on its way, officially announcing Disney's Wild Animal Kingdom on June 20th. Whilst the Walt Disney World was set to receive a fourth theme park, Disneyland's Westcott project was officially cancelled in 1995, although Disney planned to still open a second gate in California. Whilst Westcott was cancelled, the new pavilions for Epcot seemed to have been cancelled by 1995, with Disney announcing on November 21st an update to the Universe of Energy Pavilion and Test Track to replace World of Motion. In 1996, any mention of the Disney Decade had been removed from Disney's press releases. Still, Disney's Boardwalk Resort opened on July 1st, 1996, 5 years after it was initially set to open. In Epcot, Ellen's Energy Adventure replaced the Universe of Energy on September 15th, whilst World of Motion had closed in January 1996, so it could be replaced by Test Track. Back in California, Disney announced on July 18th that it would build a second theme park in Anaheim called Disney's California Adventure, a California-themed theme park which would end up opening in 2001. In 1997, Disneyland began construction on their new Tomorrowland, a considerably condensed version of the one initially planned as part of the Disney Decade. At Walt Disney World, another hotel opened, this time Disney's Coronado Resort, on August 1st, 1997. On October 22nd, two new attractions were announced for Magic Kingdom, The Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh to replace Mr. Toad's Wild Ride, and Buzz Lightyear's Space Ranger Spin, replacing Dreamflight. 1998 saw the last projects from the 1990 Disney Decade announcement actually open. On April 22, 1998, Disney's Animal Kingdom opened at Walt Disney World, the resort's fourth theme park, themed to wild animals. In Disneyland, the new Tomorrowland officially opened on May 22nd with the addition of the Honey, I Shrunk the Audience 3D show, the Rocket Rod's Thrill Ride that replaced the People Mover, the Astro Orbiter moving to the entrance of Tomorrowland, and Red's Rocket's Pizza Port replacing Mission to Mars. On November 10th, Innoventions opened in the Old America Sings building, completing the new Tomorrowland overhaul. Back in Disney World, Buzz Lightyear's Space Ranger spin opened in Magic Kingdom on November 3rd. As we reached 1999, Walt Disney World completed more additions that weren't part of the original Disney Decade plans. On January 5th, Disney's All-Star Movie Resort opened, adding another value hotel to the resort. At Animal Kingdom, the Asia expansion opened, completing the first phase of that park. Epcot saw the addition of Test Track on May 17th, adding a thrill ride to Epcot, although not the planned roller coasters that would have opened in the World Showcase. Finally, on June 4th, the Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh opened in Magic Kingdom, providing the park with a new dark ride. Over 35 projects were announced to come to the Disneyland Resort and Walt Disney World Resort as part of the Disney Decade, but only a handful of them came to be. Disneyland did receive Mickey's Toontown, a Roger Rabbit attraction, and Fantasmic in the way that they were envisioned. An Indiana Jones Adventure attraction did end up opening, but it was the Indiana Jones Adventure ride instead of the Young Indiana Jones Adventure Spectacular, with the ride being considered a classic attraction. Disneyland's Tomorrowland did receive its overhaul, but it was done on a smaller budget and was met with criticism from fans, causing it to be updated again in the early 2000s. The Disneyland Resort did also receive a second gate, but it was neither the proposed Port Disney at Long Beach or Westcott in Anaheim. Instead, Disney's California Adventure would open in 2001 in Anaheim, again built on a reduced budget. Walt Disney World did manage to greatly increase its hotel occupancy, adding 13 new hotels to the resort between 1990 and 1999. Magic Kingdom did receive its version of Splash Mountain, and an update to Tomorrowland, including the addition of a Timekeeper Circle Vision show and Alien Encounter, although Tomorrowland was not renamed Discoveryland as part of the overhaul. The park also received 3 additional attractions by the end of the decade in the form of The Legend of the Lion King, Buzz Lightyear's Space Ranger Spin, and The Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh. Of the announcements for MGM Studios, only Muppet Vision 3D, The Voyage of the Little Mermaid, and the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror would actually be built, with many of the mini-lands that were supposed to be located at the end of Sunset Boulevard being cancelled. Epcot's Disney Decade projects were all cancelled, but the park did receive updates in the form of Innoventions, Ellen's Energy Adventure, and Test Track by the end of the 1990s. By the end of the Disney Decade, Disney had also managed to open a new water park with Blizzard Beach and a whole new theme park with Animal Kingdom, increasing the capacity of Walt Disney World. So the Disney Decade was only a partial success, as Disney did invest heavily in their domestic parks throughout the 1990s, just not in the way that they had originally envisioned it. But what do you think? Let me know in the comments down below.